Is this high enough? Width? High enough? Oh, would you stop with this age business? I don't know if it's loud enough, is it? Oh, is that?
Well, they can tell. You can tell they didn't want you there, Harvey. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's April.
Yep.
It's April 2nd. And you RSVP by the 28th of March. Read the whole thing, folks. Y'all like my students.
I had not read it. This is a different thing, Marty.
Yeah, this is a different, they must have changed the date because they sent it out today. The one I got at home said March 12th. Sunny and 80.
And y'all read about Harpootli and what he do away with executive session.
Oh, Lord.
He's on a roll, but
Well, the thing is, and I put this on Facebook, something that we're liable if we just tell us personnel.
well, it, nobody else can.
I think you're right. I hope it doesn't.
7 o'clock.
You gotta wait till, I don't know. It's,
You're welcome.
7 o'clock, Mr. Mayor.
I will call the regular meeting, Irmo Town Council, to order and recognize Councilwoman Kathy Condon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Many of you probably know I'm Catholic, which is slightly different from other Christian religions. But today is the feast of St. Joseph. And the reason he's venerated is because he was a good and decent man who, according to Scripture, the Holy Spirit came to and told him to marry a young woman named Mary, who was carrying a child. And out of faith and respect, he did so. And he raised our Savior. So let us think of that tonight and the story of St. Joseph. And let's say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
give us
This day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses,
as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For thine
Thine
is
is
the
the
kingdom,
kingdom and the
power, and glory forever.
forever and ever.
Amen.
What'd I do?
Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from March 5th. Is there a motion for approval?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor then of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. Next is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you need to add? Any questions of Mr. Brown on the briefing? Seeing none, next is the code enforcement update. And
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Council, Chief, Eric, and Bob Brown, Renee. How's everybody doing?
Well,
good.
All righty.
Is your mic on?
Hello.
There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to give the code enforcement, the breakdown of the code enforcement update for January and February of 2019. All right. The total complaints or investigations was 201. Out of that, we wrote 8 tickets. 22 of them was for unsightly violations. 25 was for conditions for collections. 20 was business license checks. We had 4 animal complaints, 37 vehicle violations, and 93 other complaints, which could have come in from the website or patrol or through email. And those 8 citations were for unsanitary and unsightly conditions, as well as illicit discharge. And I believe all those have been disposed of. Let's see. Yes, all of those for that month, I believe, have been disposed of. That's just a very general breakdown of what we did for January and February.
And let me ask again too, because I always forget, the conditions for collection. What is that one?
Conditions for collections, if you put something out on the curb,
Oh, yeah.
and it could be limbs too long or either couches and stuff that's not supposed to be out there until a certain time.
Any more questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And amendments to the agenda? Any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Next is considerations of communications. Any considerations of communications? There was 3 that I was going to share with y'all. Y'all may get them too, I don't know. But I get these emails from these companies. We're like Irmo's 15th safest city or 17th, whatever. And I had got some last week. I sent them to Bob and told him to put on the website or wherever that had to do with baseball, basketball, and something else. Do y'all get those from those companies? Okay. I just want to let y'all know about them if you didn't. Any other considerations of communication?
One of those we got was that Irmo was the best place to live if you wanted to play adult baseball in the area. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, one of them was for basketball, women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess because the University of South Carolina and high schools out here being so good, that this is, if you want your children to be involved in that, it's a good place to be. But I thought that was neat. Any other considerations of communications? Seeing none. Next is presentation by citizens for items on the agenda. And I don't think anybody had signed up on there, but they may have came in after, so I'm going to just ask, is there anybody that wants to address council on anything that's on the agenda tonight? And, I'll write it on here.
Figured I'd, Eric Sickinger, 417 Crestville Road. I figured I'd get it on the record, and, the more citizens that speak up on this, probably the better. I'm in favor of 9A, approval to raise the starting salary. This makes no reason not to be competitive in a competitive field when you're looking for the best and the brightest, which we already have, but continue to get more and retain those folks as they work here. I think our Irmo Police does a wonderful job. Every interaction I've had with them has been professional, polite, wonderful, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, it really has. I've been really impressed as a resident. So that's for 9A. 9B, I understand the point of that, although I'm not sure how I feel about 9B. And then 9C, for sure, if we have them, we should keep them. I'd be in favor of continuing conversations about pay. I know we have some really good reasons for them to stay outside of the pay. And, I hate to say this from this position, but the older I get, the more I see the value of some non-cash benefits of working for an organization. And but if I'm a young individual, first, fresh out of college or fresh out of high school, the first thing I'm thinking is, just cash. And so certainly that's the value of 9A. I don't really have anything of value to add for the rest of the agenda, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? And just give your name.
Sure. My name is Denise Collins Bennett, and I'm with H.E. Corley Elementary School. This is our principal, Jason Pollock, with H.E. Corley. And we're here because our school has been awarded a federal grant, and we've been in the process of trying to update our signage. And we would like to check and ask about the zoning regulations for putting up that sign. I think right now it's sort of at a place where we cannot have that digital reader board, and so we wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And anyone else? No one else? And next item on the agenda then is unfinished business. This is the one, item A is the approval to raise the starting salary from 35 to 38 at a cost, one-time cost this year of $7,667.80. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And
I think we have to be competitive, and this is probably the only way to do it is through salary, because I really think this is a good place to work. No matter whether you're police or not police, I think it's a good town. But we need to do more to attract those who may not know what a good town this is. And money's the only way to do it, unfortunately. Go ahead.
For those of you that haven't read this on the council, this came in the mail today from the Municipal Association. There's an article in here about one of the primary things today facing many municipalities is police retention. And one of the items here is Spartanburg Police Department is allowing officers 4 10-hour work days so they can have more time with their families in one sitting. And West Columbia in July of this past year revamped their compensation levels in all police positions so that they're more competitive with the region, which is our region. So I'm all in favor of it. When I taught school, we always talked to children, always say, well, teachers don't make a whole lot of money, do they? Well, back then we didn't. But police officers made less money, and firemen made less money. But when your house was on fire, you didn't call a professional football player that gets millions to come in your house and put the fire out, or catch the burglar that's taking things from your property. You call the police officer, you call the fireman. I always said police officers walk around with targets on their backs. And at the time that they were paying teachers $7,500 a year to start, they were paying police officers in the city of Columbia $6,800 a year. It's changed, but they still have the target. And putting your life on the line is worth a whole lot more.
I'd just like to add that for the citizenry, that when you're in the private sector, of course, there's other things that you can do to entice people to stay. All of us have different needs. Some of it's money, some of it's excitement, some of it's health care and other benefits. And in the private sector, there's cafeteria plans that are offered. So if you're a young patrol officer, unmarried, maybe you want more money and you're willing to forego health insurance, let's say, to be able to do that. Well, unfortunately, we're not allowed to offer cafeteria plans here. And again, I'm just putting this out there so you're informed that we are certainly trying to squeeze the lemon as much as we can to make sure we're covering as much as we can to really do the best we can for our town. So I just wanted to put that out there that we've looked at other means of doing this. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of other means for us to go. So I am going to be voting for this also.
you want to speak? And I'll say the same thing. I mean, you know, it would be nice if we had another 100, 200,000 in revenue that we could do multiple things. We did give across the board a couple of years ago, but then shortly after that, I think Casey and then she said West Columbia. And that's the nature of the beast. You do a little bit, they do a little bit. But we just have to keep always trying to do what we can. We have 2 or 3 things on here that will kind of help the hiring and also help the retaining. And it may not be enough, but it's what we can do. And then maybe next year we look at things again. And I mean, I think in the future, it's not going to be the same game as it was years ago. I think it's a constant thing that we're going to be looking at all the time is what else can we do to keep and to retain and to hire and to be competitive. Any more discussion?
After we do this, is this is gonna balance out across the board of all the police department? So that
Yes, sir. The $7,600 will bring the 4 people that are below the 38,000 up to the base 38,000.
okay, so the people that are at 38,000 now, they're gonna get the $1,000.
It won't change for them for the number A out here.
Right.
They would get the bonus if you got it.
Right. Okay. Okay. We like you said, we have to ensure that the guys are getting compensated well, and I agree with them.
So all in favor of the approval from 35 to 38 on item A, do so with show of hand. Next item is the approval of the one-time $1,000 bonus to all certified officers, which is, well, 26, but I think 24 down there now, I think I heard. Or 22, I guess, right now. So is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
And Kathy, and then
Everyone probably knows an experienced police officer is a big asset to any community. And I think we have more than our share. We have good policemen, and all of them have good experience. And I think Eric Sickinger just mentioned that he was about the professionalism, and I have the same thing. I agree. We have an awfully good force, and I think we ought to do what we can to keep them. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm in agreement. Again, we have some of the best.
We do.
And we want to not only attract, but we want to keep what we have.
The same way.
And one thing too, just for the public to know, we looked at the $1,000 bonus. We looked at a $1,000 salary increase for all the others, other than the ones that went from 35 to 38. Based on the captain's report and everything else that went on, it was determined that the officers would rather have $1,000, I'm gonna call it one time, even though you lose some money for, taxes and stuff like that, as opposed to $1,000 added to your yearly, and then you only get, say $50 a week or something like that. That's why we're kind of doing it this way, because that's something that they felt like they would appreciate more than just say raising their salary $1,000 and then only seeing maybe $50, $70 of it out of every paycheck. So if this is what they want, then I'm gonna be in agreement with them on that as well. All in favor then of number B, doing the $1,000 bonus across the board to all certified police officers, and that would be effective April 1, just like the other one, and it would cost us about $22,000 this year. Nothing next year, so to speak. All in favor, do so with show of hands. And the next is the longevity thing. This is the one that has the different ranking positions built into it. And it would be a longevity program for certified enlisted police officers with a one-time cost this year of about $16,000. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Just one more way to keep the officers that we have, and I think it's a good thing.
Well, it revamped the officer program that we have. The officers don't start at patrolman; they get one jump, and then they're all in the same boat. And if they make sergeant, then they're all in the same boat again. And this added different ranks between each of the standard ranks that we've had and added some that are in the military. Like we have a sergeant, now we've got staff sergeant, master sergeant, sergeant major, and each time they go up in rank, they get $1,000. And they don't go up in rank again for minimum of 3 years. So every 3 years, you're going to have some people go up in rank, some won't. So it's not going to be hitting the budget hard every year. And it's a way of rewarding them for achieving what they've done and also making them want to stay and go up higher. I'm definitely in favor of it.
And for the public's information, just to kind of give a quick breakdown, right now we have a patrol officer. After you've been here, is it a year? They go to senior patrol or 2 years?
Yeah, well, yeah, they have to have patrol experience. Now, they come from another agency.
Right.
It could be as little as 6 months.
Oh, okay.
But they have to be a police officer in the state of South Carolina for a year.
And then they go to corporal, and then they go to sergeant. And right now, they're either stuck at corporal or they're stuck at sergeant. And they're really stuck at corporal unless a sergeant position comes available. If it doesn't, then they're stuck at corporal. Under the new thing, you'd have a patrol officer, a senior patrol officer, a patrol officer first class, and then corporal, and then senior corporal, and then sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, master sergeant, first sergeant, sergeant major. So it gives and helps retain some officers because it gives them the ability to have a position, a rank increase, and then $1,000 bonus along with that. They don't get a pay raise, but they do get the $1,000, and then every 3 years they're entitled to that as long as they meet the whatever criteria and all. But it gives them the ability to advance while they're here and not stuck at someplace the rest of their career, so to speak. And this will help in the retaining and all that too. So, and this is something the police department came up with as well, and what they've talked about, and their people have said this would be something good for them.
And each one of those advancements are $1,000.
Yeah.
So in every year or every 3 years.
Well, every year we may have 1 or 2 people
Yeah.
be there 3 years, and the next year we may have 1 or 2, and some
Right.
years we may have 4 or 5.
But every 3 years they got to looking for $1,000.
Yeah, as long as they meet that criteria and hadn't been in trouble and whatever all that stuff is, but yeah.
It's
I
a
think
good
this will help,
incentive.
yeah. And it won't, as far as the bank and the budget and all that kind of stuff, won't break the bank as well. So I think these are some good things that we're doing. And thank the chief and the
So
captain.
that's
for that.
$2,000.
But that was,
$2,000 overall. $1,000 raise, and it's
yeah.
Yep.
Well, now some of them, let's say somebody's been here, quote, 9 years, they would get 111 plus the 1,000, so they'd get a 4,000
$4,000.
bonus. Yeah. Because if somebody's been here 9 years,
Right.
as of April 1st, they would get the 1,000 for being here 3 years, the 1,000 being here 6 years, the 1,000 being here 9 years. And then they would get that $1,000 across the board thing. But that's how whatever that dollar amount was, the 16,000, because Bob's calculated out who's been here 1 year, 3 years, or 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, whatever. So it kind of, the ones that've been here 9 years get the 3 bonuses as opposed to just 1 bonus.
Right.
So, any more discussion? All in favor then of item C, which is the 16,000 and the longevity program, do so with show of hands. Next is first reading of ordinance 19.2. This is the one, well, let's get a motion first, and I'll explain it. I'll make a motion for first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
And right now, our planning commission is redoing our planning stuff, the whole book, everything. They have made some recommendations in there of things that we need to do. One of them is change our sign ordinance because other towns have changed theirs and all that kind of stuff. But ours doesn't allow those digital signs, if I'm understanding correctly, in residential properties and also in like churches. They're in most churches and schools are in residential areas. They have to be 300 foot away from the nearest home. A lot of that too was based on years ago when we passed that thing, because they were bright and there was no way to adjust them and all these kind of things, and some people didn't want a bright sign next to them in a business location or in a residential. But now the sign things have changed, and they have automation in them that make them go down at night, brighten them up during the day at 12 and make them go down. And so they do a whole lot different stuff. But this particular school is one of the few schools in School District 5 that doesn't have one, but they can't because of our 300 whatever. So Bob is saying if we change the N to a P, which means not permitted to permitted, then the other stuff that's already on the books would kick in, which is the signage, the brightness, and yada, yada, yada. And as the lady had mentioned,
Bless you.
they've got, from my understanding, they got a grant. They have to use that grant up. It's 2 years old right now. If they don't hurry up and use the money, then they lose the grant. Or if they wait till next year, they may still be able to get it, but then they got to write a whole bunch of explanation as to why they hadn't spent. So they're asking us to change that to where they can do it. We can wait until whenever the zoning finishes their stuff and then it comes to us maybe at the end of the year or something like that, or we can just go ahead and change the one thing and allow that. So that's kind of where this is right now. And Bob, I don't know if you need to explain anything about the sign regulations that are already in place that
No, Planning Commission had already made all these changes to signs in the zoning ordinance update. But of course, that wouldn't, like you said, wouldn't come to council for another 4 or 5 months. Then you'd have to have 3 readings. So we're looking at the end of the year before that got the new one approved. But they had already approved this because, like the lady had said, most all schools and churches nowadays have digital signs. We simply don't permit them or allow them in residential zoned areas, which that's what this would allow, just for schools and churches.
yeah, just for schools and churches, not businesses, but just those type of things.
And this really is the only school that's in a residential zone, isn't it?
Sir?
This is really the only school we have in a residential zone, am I wrong?
We have Irmo Elementary and H.E. and
Irma Elementary is not in
they're really in
residential
commercial
zone.
areas.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the only one
So-
that really.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They mentioned that they got a grant for this sign thing. Do you know how much the grant was off the hand?
There are several parts to that. There's a grant for the whole district, which includes 5 schools. It's about $13 million. The grant portion for H.E. Corley is about 1.8.
$1.8 million?
Good.
It's going to be a nice sign.
Yeah,
It's $1 million sign you're going to put out there?
not quite, not
Oh,
quite.
okay. No, the reason why I wanted to know about the grant is because on our budget workshop, we talked about adding a grant person, and that's an example of what can happen if you have people going after grants. You know, they got $1 million for a sign. That certainly helps their bottom
For
line.
a sign.
I'm exaggerating, but I'm saying, you know, you got a large amount of money
Yes.
from a grant. And
Our grant was to implement a Montessori program within H.E. Corley
Yeah, and
Elementary
that's
School.
the key.
And
Good.
part of that is to attract families to that school, and that's where the signage comes in.
Cool. Well, thank you. I just wanted to point that out to council that grants work, they are achievable. Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor then of ordinance, our first reading of ordinance 1902, do so with show of hand.
I'd
like to speak in behalf of that sign thing. I've been to your office, I think, 2 or 3 times. I've been to your office back here, talking by 2 or 3 times. And one of the questions you asked me was years ago, these signs were bad. The electronic message boards would give a glare that would just about blind you. As she was just speaking, and I guess the town administrator said here, most all of the reputable signs now have a light sensor that brings it down. I kind of read in your proposed changes that the planning department is doing that they're wanting to go down to, or if y'all pass this, down to 4,300 luminous or nix. It's not luminous. Luminous is only in this type lighting, but the signage is not. 4,300 in the daytime, 750 at night, I think. The sign that we represent only, we suggest to the end user to set it at a default of an average 3,300 a day. And it depends on the type sign you get. They've got 3 or 4 different millimeters, what they call millimeters. 10 millimeter, it gives you a resolution almost like your TV at home. That's how clear it is. That gives 9,000 of the NICS, N-I-T-S, which is on the other side of the lighting, the luminous. But there you would only use 33% of that, so it's well below the 43. On the 16 and the 20, it's 10,000. But if you do 33% of that, you're still well below, and and they will have the opportunity in these programs to cut it off at night completely, or they can go from a full power of 100% right down to 5%. So all of that problem with the better signs has disappeared. But you did ask about that, so and if y'all would like information on that, I brought some copies if you'd like to have that.
Y'all want some?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, if you want to give them to Bob and he can give them out to us or something. Be fine. And let's see. We did
those. If you read that, it'll kind of tell you exactly what I just said. But that kind of gives out the information on that, and they've become the reason everybody's wanting it is even years ago when I first got out of college, I worked for a company that sent me to a lot of programs to teach you to be a little better. But everyone basically was talking about communications in every company, and it's a problem. And that's what they want this sign for is to communicate for this Montessori program that they're doing. So I hope that kind of helps you in your decision.
You're with the sign company or something?
Yes, sir. I am with the sign company.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have to have 3 readings. And do we have a public hearing too, Bob? Oh, okay, so just 3 readings, okay. And next is item B, the approval of a contract with Central Midlands Council of Government for our planning consultant in the amount of $12,500, which is the same as it's been for last year. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Vote on.
Yeah, it was 5-0, yeah. So you made a motion, Kathy? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. And I think you said, Bob, this is the same actually for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. 3, okay. Or 4, or whatever. Go ahead.
Bob, didn't we used to pay somebody a fortune to do this?
Well, we had Dan Bismore a long time ago when I
That's
first
who I
came
meant,
here,
yeah.
and we paid him, I think,
18?
Yeah.
no, it was around 18 to 20,000, and just after he'd been here, I think 2001 or 2, he requested to jump up to 40,000, and
Yes.
that's when town let him go and went to Central Midlands.
This is a deal, y'all. the COG has all types of experts. And I go to a monthly meeting, and every month I find a new expert on something that is there. It's very informative, and they know what's going on. They're up to date. They're well educated. And this is a good price for this type of service. Yeah, it's good, because we used to pay a lot more.
Now, they still charge us sometimes extra. They have to do something extra, like
Yeah.
the planning thing or
Comprehensive plan.
comprehensive plan. They'll break that out or something and do more. But any more discussion?
I'm in agreement.
It's a deal.
And all in favor then of the approval of the contract for the amount of $12,500, do so with show of hands. And next is the contract for the orchestra, East Coast Entertainment, in the amount of $4,500 for the Finesse Band. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
And Kathy.
Yes, sir. Barry, have you read this?
Yeah.
Okay. It's standard?
I have one question about it, but that's,
Okay, because I depend on y'all, and Larry might want to, would we mind if Larry said a few words?
If you want to, yeah, come.
Did you have a question that I was?
Oh,
I'll tell you, this is Terrence Young's group. They were opening band for us 2 years ago. Did a great job. We really wanted them back last year and had a conflict. So we really wanted them to headline. This is also the author or the performer of the orchestra and developer of the orchestra dance.
I was thinking they were the ones that came
Used
up
to be
with
our headliner. And you typically have questions about rider. There's just the rider's inconsequential on this. It's a sandwich tray. And some cold drinks, non-alcoholic. So there's no, it's just nothing in the rider that would attract any attention at all or any expense. We actually amended it because you guys like to know we made it $4,600 to pick up a tray of sandwiches and some soft drinks. But you know, again, it's really just almost nothing. So.
And they got the people up that year, and the people never sat down that year. Even after the other bands came on, they got them up and going. That was kind of neat.
It's a great, and he's also an Irmo guy, and it's great to have him up here. Like I say, we're just glad what he did, and it was a great show, and look forward to another great show.
and our attorney's already read it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes, thanks, Eric.
are they playing any place in the Irmo or Columbia area?
Does this band play?
Yeah, week before or week after.
Right. Because he's local, we don't get a radius clause, that's called. I mean, they do play. He does play around. The public, they don't. He doesn't do a lot of public shows. He tries to do, weddings and these sort of things out of town. But he's played the amphitheater. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays it again next year. Again, they try to space him out, but he'll be playing at other venues around since he's local.
I was just curious. I mean, it's a great deal. I mean, for getting them. But are they playing at the Lexington Amphitheater the week before or week after? Or?
I don't have a date, but I bet they'll play within a couple of months before. Again, that's part of the circuit around. So
A couple of months, I don't mind. A week before, I got a question.
Yeah, I agree. But they would not give a radius clause on the contract, in short, because he was local.
And that amphitheater in Lexington, don't they charge? They don't charge.
Well, they do.
On
some stuff.
Right.
You talking about charge citizens to come
Yes.
in or charge for the youth?
Some stuff they charge,
Yeah. Ours is free.
The orchestra.
I'd say about half of their stuff is free. About half of it, there's a gate charge at Lexington at the Ice House.
Well, we're better because our festival is free.
Every year, yes, sir.
Any more discussions? All in favor then of the contract for $4,500 for the Finesse Band plus the, whatever it was, the rider stuff, do so with show of hands. Next item is presentation by citizens, and the sheet had Mike Ward and then Greg Edmonds. So Mike, okay. And Greg Edmonds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. First, I'd like to preface my comments by saying I'm encouraged by your financial backing of your police department. I'm a retired law enforcement officer myself. I was a police public information officer when I retired.
Thank you.
I wanted to bring something to the council's attention. I do not have, unfortunately, the ordinance from the town regarding the parking on streets as opposed to parking in roadway, or I'm sorry, as opposed to parking on private property. I did read it when it came into the media, but I have not seen it since. South Carolina Code of Laws 56.5.25.10 requires that you cannot park in a public roadway unless it's an emergency situation, basically, unless you are a school bus dropping off children or a refuse collection, something like that. I reside on Zanark Drive, which has a very acute curve on it. It's not quite a hairpin curve, but it's actually one curve, then about 20 feet, and then another curve. As you're coming in the daylight hours on the curve, coming from Fork onto Finsbury, onto Zanark, on that end of the drive, which is the 600 block, as you approach that first curve, frequently there are vehicles, including a large truck, a gentleman who drives a truck there, that is parked in the roadway. You can't see this vehicle until you are probably 15 feet from it. I took a picture of the roadway. If I could show it to council members if you'd like to see it. But and you could also just look at a map and again and see how acute that curve is. My concern is that I've gone around these vehicles that are parked in the roadway there, and they have all four tires on the pavement, which again is contrary to the South Carolina state law. And when you're going around that vehicle, you can't see if somebody's coming at you from the other side because they're coming around that curve, and you frequently meet other vehicles. Now, I'm an older person, and most of the people in the neighborhood are older persons, and we observe the speed limit. But there are kids that occasionally drive through there at 40 miles an hour, and I'm afraid someone's going to meet someone head on there, and there's going to be an injury as a result of that. Now, I understand these people that are parking on the roadway are doing so because their houses are down a steep embankment, 25 or 30 feet. Their driveways go down, and it's a very, almost a 45-degree angle. And I understand that, if you drove down that thing and you put your car in reverse, it might not make it back up. So I understand why they're parking in the roadway, but I just wanted to know if council might make some minor exceptions for these folks to maybe put their wheels, at least two of the wheels, on the grass, because again, I'm concerned, about meeting somebody coming around there, and it's not just the one vehicle. There are several people that are there that are parked in that manner. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and let you address it as you may. Thank you.
What was that South Carolina code you gave again?
It's 56.5.25.10. I can read it to you if you'd like.
I just want to get it so I can. 56-5-2510.
2510. It's just a short paragraph. It says, no person shall stop, park, or leave standing a vehicle, whether attended or unattended, upon the roadway outside a business or residential district when it is practicable to stop, park, or leave the vehicle off the roadway. And unobstructed width of the highway opposite a standing vehicle must be left for the free passage of other vehicles, and a clear view of the stopped vehicle must be available from a distance of 200 feet in each direction upon the highway.
Huh.
So clearly there's not a 200-foot, and because people are not, traveling hopefully more than 15 or 20 miles an hour through there anyway, but because I naturally have to slow down for the curve as it is, but my concern is that, again, that someone may be injured meeting another vehicle because you can't see them until you're there at that point. So that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Well, there's no one else on the thing, but okay.
I just got two things. My name's Chris Caterly. I live at 105 Tuscany Court. First thing I want to do is just thank you guys for approving, on behalf of the police department, I want to thank you guys for approving all the budget concerns in relation to us. We greatly appreciate it, and we want to let y'all know everybody appreciates it. So thank y'all for doing that, as well as the chief and captain for doing the research to give you guys that. So thank y'all very much. We didn't want y'all to think we weren't going to say anything. So on behalf of us, thank you. The second thing is, I actually know Mr. Edmonds pretty well. He's known my mother longer than I've been alive. But the portion of the road he's talking about, I think, is out of town. But I'll put it on my honey-do list that the chief gives me every day to go check it tomorrow, just if there's any in town. Well, we have some portions of Xanark. That's what I'm saying is I'll check the portion that's in town.
542 is where it stops. We stop at 542. That's we may annex. I think that's just on this side.
Unless we want to annex some more property, that second curve is not ours.
Couple of signatures, we can fix that, right?
That was it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And any other presentation by citizens? None. Next item is discussion, and Councilman Walker wants to discuss the comment bus stop thing.
I don't know if y'all are aware that there's a new bus stop that was put at College Street across from Midlands Tech. I inquired about it and asked Bob about it, and I asked Harbison, where'd the bus stop come from? Now, you're on the COG. Did they mention anything about that to you?
They said, I talked to them as late as this afternoon to verify.
Right.
Comet told them that Midland Tech requested it. They didn't say how many students, they didn't say anything. They just said it was requested by Midland Tech. Now, I doubt, it could be one department, like continuing ed, and they didn't know that. But I checked again today just to make sure, and that's what I was told. But they have no reason to lie,
Yeah, well, the situation is, if Midlands Tech requested it, it should have came through us as a town, since they're popping a sign on our property, on our town proper. The other part about it is, if Comment is now collecting revenue in our town, they need to get a business license so they can collect that revenue, and I don't believe they have one.
Think not.
Do they have a business license, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Comment needs a business license. Well, they're making revenue. You got business license for taxis, right? They get business license for Uber. I believe we require that, but the bottom line is they're generating revenue in our town where they wasn't before. The other part about that is that Harbison didn't know anything about it either. Mm-hmm. I went and asked them, did y'all give them approval to pop that sign up there?
The COG didn't know about it until we called.
The COG didn't know about it either?
And Comet just got this request and did it. But
I think from what the Comet people told Bob, they didn't need anybody's approval, but when Midlands Tech said we want to stop on our property, then I guess they can do it.
This was sort of
no law says they can't drive down the road or drive through town all they want to because it's a public road.
No, but they to put bus stops up, they need to get approval from somebody. I don't know who they got it from.
I think they get it from the property owner.
They didn't. That's my point.
Well, didn't you say the guy told you Midlands Tech is the one that approved it?
Well, Midland Tech requested it. I mean, the road doesn't belong to us, so I mean, I don't know if they had to get permission from a right-of-way, but I mean, I talked to the same person, the CEO, the name I gave you, and he said he got the request from Midland Tech, and they went and put it out there. They didn't come through us.
But they just can't pop it up anywhere they want, is what I'm saying. You have to get approval.
I think they can, though.
According to him, he can.
No.
If he gets a request from, and I think the schools have a little different way of doing business. I think, the town could request it for sure. He said he'd be happy to come out.
So let me get this straight then. If somebody wants to put a bus stop on, let's say, Friarsgate Boulevard.
If the school wants to, let's start with a school now because that's what we're dealing with. If a school wants a bus stop.
Well, the school or
a school.
Church, whatever, they want to pop it on Friarsgate Boulevard, all they got to do is call Comment and say, I want a bus stop up there. And then boom, they got a bus stop out there.
Mr. Walker, I don't know all the details, but according to what the CEO told me, that is correct.
No, sir. I
Normally
don't-
they
no.
require funding too, so
Well,
somebody has to pay.
we need to look into that because this bus stop appeared from nowhere, and somebody had to get approval to do it. Nobody gave them. They just decided to put it up there, and I don't.
Nobody from the town knew about it until.
Well, the town did know about it, obviously, and Harbison didn't know about it, and the COG didn't know about it. So somebody knew about it. I want to know who knew about it. Is what the
I
question.
think you said Midlands Tech knew about it,
Well, they
and
requested
Comment knew about it.
Right.
And I
Is it
believe-
on Midlands Tech property?
No,
That I don't know. I don't
No,
know
it
where the
isn't.
stop is. I hadn't
On the
looked at
it's
it.
street.
not. I'm telling you,
It's on
it's
the
not.
sidewalk, right?
It's,
in
no,
the
it's
road
not on
right
a
away.
sidewalk. It's on Harbison's. It's on basically on the side of the road in the Harbison subdivision. It's not on a
It's-
sidewalk. There is
It's
no
in
sidewalk
Harbison,
there.
right? It's in Harbison?
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
And like I said, I went to Harbison and asked the Harbison people about it, and they had no idea that there was a bus stop there.
Huh.
They had no idea there was even signs even put up. So that's why I'm asking.
Years ago, and I don't know how accurate and all that kind of stuff, but there were some people that wanted one at Irmo Village. And the COG, or the Comment people, or whoever it was back then, I can't remember if it was Comment or somebody else, they spoke to, from my understanding, and the management company said no, because they wanted, say, $5,000 a year, or whatever the fee was. They wanted X amount of dollars to stop out there. And the management company said, no, most of our people have cars, a few do or a few don't, but it ain't enough for us to pay $5,000, and we're not. And so they said, okay, we're not stopping. So, again, I don't know, but I would almost imagine Comment didn't stop without some, because as soon as they start coming into your town, they're gonna ask you for money. And if you don't give money, they won't keep coming. Go to West Columbia and Casey and Lexington. Normally, when they start running around over there and they get people, say, whatever, riding it, then they turn around and say, oh, we need $10,000 for them to continue this route, or we're not gonna do it. And sometimes the municipalities give it, sometimes they don't. But,
The other part about this is that bus stop, the way they put this bus stop, could be potentially dangerous. It's, a bus stop there and somebody trying to get around.
my assumption was DOT or whoever owned the road would have to approve it. Like, that'd be Lexington County. But Lexington County or DOT, or like if they wanted to put one on Lake Murray, DOT would probably sign off on it or not sign off on it. But DOT would probably come to the town and ask us, and then we'd have to say yea or nay.
Harbison should have been notified.
Right.
Well, or whoever owns the road, which would be the county,
Well,
probably.
yeah, I agree,
Or
but
State, I don't know which one.
being a
that section
PUD,
is.
they would have more interest than
I would
anyone
think the
else.
people at Midlands Tech or Comment would be able to tell you, we got permission from Lexington County, DOT, or whoever they got permission from. I don't know.
And
I
schools
don't know
and
how it
churches
works.
requesting this, I think, are different than another entity. So,
I mean, they'd probably stop at a mall or a shopping center if the shopping center paid them to stop there. But they'd have to have money to do so, typically. But that's about all I know. I don't know.
it is suspicious.
Well, I think we need to find out who did it, who gave authority for this thing. Now, how we do it, I don't know.
Didn't you speak, what was that guy's name? Did you speak to him?
I didn't say
Yeah,
anybody.
his name is John Ando. He's the executive director, CEO of Comet. I can't imagine he did something he wasn't allowed to do. That's just my opinion. When he told me that.
Can't you just ask him who approved it? Simple as that?
No, I mean, I asked him, and he said he got, Midland Tech had sent in a formal request for the bus stop, and that's why they put the stop there.
But did Midland Tech request it on a state road or a county road or on their private property?
It's not private property. It's in the road right away where the sign is
So if they
actually
asked for
located.
it to be on private property and now they're parking on a public road, they may need to say, hey, come on our property. I would just ask them that.
That would be a public document that you could get, right?
Comment probably
I
may or
don't-
may not be.
I don't know if there's a document, unless they had to get an easement or some sort of an encroachment permit from the Lexington County.
I would just ask comment, are they allowed to stop on any public road without permission of that county or whoever?
They probably have a global type of agreement. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Right.
They probably have a global.
And ask them, can they
We'd love to know.
Because, I mean, they get, money from the state, and they're getting like $300 million from Richland County penny tax. I mean, these guys have a lot of authority in the state of South Carolina. So.
And I believe this is Lexington County. I live in Lexington County, so if I'm not mistaken, that's Lexington County, not Richland County.
But they go into other counties.
That's correct. I'm just saying they were getting all the money from the penny tax. Yeah, they're all over the Midlands.
Right.
Lexington and Richland. Doesn't matter which county.
They do have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I've seen
A lot of the other counties and municipalities pay them to come into their.
Yeah, that's normally a money-losing proposition. Buses.
Except they get a lot.
Early.
Yeah, but I'm saying they get a lot because they lose money on the fees.
No, you're right. You're right.
So you'll get back to me and let me know that? Okay, thank you.
And no executive session. And next is adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion.
And second?
Second? That's good.
All in favor say aye, 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 aye.
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 Did everybody say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Everybody said aye?
Aye,
Aye.
aye, 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 aye.
Unanimous, the whole thing.
Oh, really? Well, you should have warned us.
Unanimous.
And it's not 8 o'clock. That's all right.
Voted unanimously for everything.
See, Eric.
Things for her. Oh.